All right, guys, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys for coming to this Breathing for Performance workshop this morning. My name is Tony, head coach and director of Crux Training. If you guys haven't met me before, I'm really excited to have Tom from Breath Performance Physio here today to talk about breathing. So with health and fitness, we like to think about having four pillars of success: training, nutrition, recovery, and mindset. Okay, so today we're gonna dig a little bit deeper in the training and recovery side of things. And I'm just gonna pass over to Tom. It's gonna be fairly practical today, guys, so get comfy. If you have any questions, just please put your hand up before, and I'll make sure to come around so we can record. And if you guys have any issues with recording, let me know, and I'll just make sure you're not in the shot.
Sweet.
Okay, cool. Over to Tom.
Thank you, Tony. Well, as I said, thank you for having me, guys. My name is Tom. The business that I have called it is Breath Performance. The reason being, I'm a big advocate of breathing and what it does for people from both a physical thing, a health thing, recovery thing, a sleep thing. It's mostly because it's the first thing you do when you're born, and it will be the last thing you do when you die. So it makes the most sense to me to start with that and build everything forward. So just as a little bit of background, I'm a physio by trade, exercise scientist and a strength and conditioning coach. Been doing that for a few years now. Got into doing this for the last couple of years. And really the reason was I got hurt myself. Someone taught me breathing, and then I wondered what the hell happened. It didn't make no sense to me, and I built everything forward from there. And what I found within my practice for people who have stiffnesses in your back, pains in your neck, any of those issues were very much alleviated with breathing. So I built everything forward from there. And I've luckily enough met people like Tony along the way, someone like James here as well, who have helped sort of cultivate this community and environment of understanding basic principles, the bare feet stuff, the breathing stuff, and just trying to open everyone's eyes a little bit more to it and just build it all forward. But before we get started into the whole purpose of today with the performance, I actually just want to go around the room, ask everyone's name. So firstly, I know everyone here, but also something you want to take away from today. So that way it's not just about me talking and guiding it, we can sort of start to tailor it a little bit in session for what you want to get away from it, okay? So we'll start over here and we'll go forward.
My name's Melita.
Nice to meet you.
I just said I was like,
That's a great starting point, I like it.
just obviously like just running, training, everything, just doing something, even going to sleep, and telling myself how to stop stressing so much and finding myself just taking those PT first definitely help, but obviously learning how much does connect to the rest of my body as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Hey Sam, I think just recovery as well, and sleeping.
Yeah.
And just during the day, just as a general, keeping that consistency of calm.
Perfect, all right, sweet.
My name is Dick, and I mean, I just don't know much about it. I'd say that actually I kind of got interested in the idea of what happens when you breathe, because when I was watching UFC, the coaches would come into the corner and they would be like, the guys would come out of a round and they'd be really, really struggling for breath, and they'd be like, take like 3 big breaths and let it out slow. And I'm like, why do that? In my mind, I'm like, wouldn't you want to keep taking in as much oxygen as you can, as fast as you can? Why are they doing that? And they're like, try to slow your breathing. I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. So I just don't know anything about it, really.
Okay, cool. So we can build from the foundation then, which is what I love doing. We'll start there and we'll work forward. Perfect.
I'm Christina. I think 2 things for me, breathing when we're doing conditioning, so that I can continue doing my conditioning, and also for strength as well. So getting the most out of the lift.
Perfect.
For breathing, yeah.
My name is Chris, also pretty much the same as Christina, but I'd like to be able to keep my breathing more consistent, over doing cardio, keep breathing well for an extended period of time.
Perfect, sweet.
Hi, Amanda. I guess I'm looking to get any takeaways that I can use for clients.
Yep.
We're not taught a lot about breathing during PT. It seems to be kind of by. And there's differences between like yoga breathing and powerlifting breathing. So I thought any takeouts would be great.
Perfect.
I'm James. Biggest focus for me would be breathing for running at the moment.
All right, easy. So thankfully, Tony and I discussed it prior. What we'll go through today, and we have like an hour, but again, I can go longer if you guys want more information. It should cover pretty much all of those topics. All right, hopefully for everyone in here, there is going to be a takeaway message and something that is practical straight away. Hence why I want to make this session practical, because I want you to be able to feel it, ask questions in the moment of, what am I doing? Can I do it better, etc. And we can work forward. But the very first thing is, before we get started on the practical stuff, is the slightest bit of education, just so you can understand where it's coming from. So when we talk about breathing, we're looking at it, there's three main things that we want to try and identify within a person. Now, we won't necessarily jump into all three today in depth, but it's good for everyone to be aware of it. The very first thing is your state. Effectively means, where is your mind at? What are you feeling like? So it's a balance in your nervous system at that point. It's your parasympathetic rest and digest versus your sympathetic, I'm the fight, flight, freeze type mode. Where you sit in that in any given moment, whether it's training, whether it's walking, whether it's studying, whether it's treating clients or whatever it is, they need to be in different spots. And we're going to go through something called the window of tolerance that builds in. But to understand your own state is very, very important. The next part is going to be mechanics. And that's going to be a big part of what we do at the start here. If I give you an analogy, because it's much easier for me in visuals as well, if I have a small mug and I put a balloon in a mug, if that mug is representing of my rib cage and the balloon is representing of my lungs, if I fill up that balloon, how big does the balloon get? Big as the mug. If I get a bigger mug and I do the same thing, what happens? Exactly, so I'm getting more room. Now, if we just take it across, if you think that mug is your rib cage, if I'm really stiff and I don't move through there, I can't expand my lungs. It doesn't matter how good you are at breathing or if you know the right pattern. If it doesn't move, you cannot get as much volume of oxygen and volume of air in. So that's why you have to start to look at the mechanics to it. It's very vital, very important. Now, the very good part of it, we're going to focus a lot around here today, but that goes all the way from your feet up to your head. If your feet don't move the way they should, then you will not breathe the way you should. If your head doesn't move the way it should because your eyes and your balance system aren't playing along, you will not breathe as well as you should, okay? But we want to focus mostly on this today to get everything moving, to make you feel it. The last thing is your physiology. Now, this is probably the more complicated one, but it's looking at how you deal with stress, and particularly the stress of CO2 or carbon dioxide. So if we go to the running example or even the conditioning example, when we start exercising, our metabolism starts rising. We start to produce more CO2. Now, as a marker for when the CO2 goes up, it's giving us that want to breathe, okay? Now, if we want to get our breathing right and timing it and getting it very efficient, we need to minimize our sensitivity to CO2. Because if we start to feel this marker, I need to breathe, and I start, I'm going to start panting and puffing, which is going to cause me to lose my state, and it's going to cause me to have poor mechanics. So no matter how we look at it, these things are always combined. They're never separate. We like to separate things to make it easy for our mind, but at the end of the day, it's always going to be a mixture of all three. Okay, so but now is the fun part where we actually get to start doing stuff. Before we start any of the stuff, because I'm a physio and I like to work, I like to pick an assessment, and I want you to pick one of the three things. Try all three now and see how they feel, because as we go through, I want you to reassess. Do I feel better, same, or worse with each of the exercises? And they're just very simple stuff. So if everyone wants to stand up first, the first one's just a squat, okay? However you do your normal squat, I want you just to practice one or two and just get a sensation of how it feels, okay? And take a note, is there a hot spot? Does my hip feel stiff? Does my back feel stiff? Does my neck feel stiff? Anything, okay? Your second option is a toe touch. Roll down, touch your toes, and come back up. The same sort of thing, you're looking for any stiffnesses or anything. Now, they're the two easiest ones. The last one's a push-up. And I want you to practice your push-up as if you use it as an assessment from the ground first. Push up, come back down. So if everyone wants to give that a try, just to get that sensation. Now, you can pick all three or you can pick one, entirely up to you. The whole idea is now you have a bit of an assessment, a starting point. So to get started with the work, I want everyone to lie on your back, and we're going to run through some breath awareness. So the best way to do it, if you have your feet up, so if your socks are a bit slippery, you feel free to take them off, but feet bent up, lying on your back. Perfect. Now for the next minute and a half, all I want you to do is focus on how you're breathing and where you're breathing. So let's have a think. Am I breathing in and out through my nose or in and out through my mouth? Am I breathing in through my nose and out through my mouth? Am I breathing in through my mouth, out through my nose? Start to get the sensation of where your natural want to breathe is. And as you're going through that, what I want you to start to shift your focus towards is, where do I feel it? Do I feel it in my chest? Or do I feel it down in my stomach? Can I feel my stomach or my chest expanding? Or can I feel pressure on my back into the ground? And as you're going through it, keep that baseline, okay? Keep that idea. We're going to build it into our very first drill, okay? Now, as you're all laying there, nice and comfortably, I'm going to start to educate you on where you should be breathing and why. So what we want to get the idea around, the very first fundamental concept, is the awareness, because if you don't know where you start, then we don't know how to progress. But now you've got that, you want to start breathing in and out through your nose. Now, to do that really efficiently, I want you to press the tongue against the roof of your mouth. I want you to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose. Okay, so it's not fast, it's whatever speed feels comfortable, okay? What I would like you to start to feel is your stomach expanding, okay? And this is going to go in all directions. So as I breathe in, my diaphragm drops down. It's going to expand in a full 360. So if everyone wants to put their hands on their stomach, just at the bottom of their rib cage, one each side, I want you to feel the expansion into that zone. What you should feel on the other side, on your back, is your back actually pressing into the ground, getting that feedback that you're breathing in a full 360. Now, as you're doing that, you're waking your diaphragm up. You're getting it moving through full range. You're allowing it that freedom to do its job. Now, someone might be asking, why is it through your nose? What is the point of that? Your nose actually provides about 50% more resistance to breathing than your mouth does. The reason that becomes important is it means that you're starting to use muscles in a more efficient and effective manner, so you can actually take a better breath. As you breathe through your nose with that tongue pressed against the roof of your mouth, what you'll find is it's actually a bit easier to access down into your stomach. If you want to give it a try breathing through your mouth down into your stomach. Have a feel of the difference of how it feels breathing in and out through the mouth versus in and out through the nose. The nose should allow you a little bit of an easier access as the starting point. But then we follow up, why else could it be useful to breathe through our nose? There's this little chemical in there, it's called nitric oxide. When we breathe through our nose, we get the utilization of it, and what it does is it opens up blood vessels. It helps open up our airway, okay, in coordination with using that carbon dioxide. So if you want to think mentally, get the image of a pipe. You're allowing a bigger pipe to allow more oxygen, more air through. So we come back to the point over here about the UFC fighter. If I go a bit slower with my breath and I open it up, I'm gonna get more oxygen in, even though I'm breathing slower. And if you can get it through your nose, you can utilize nitric oxide and the efficiency of movement to get more oxygen. So you don't need to take more breaths. Additionally, and as everyone's probably starting to feel, you get the activation of your parasympathetic nervous system, so the calming system. So during the day, as you're breathing through your nose, if you can breathe slowly, breathe calmly through most of it, you're putting yourself into a better state. You're calmer, you're more relaxed, you can think more clearly. So what we've combined is we're using the physiology, we're fixing your mechanics straight away as we're then adapting the state. Now, as that's been going on for a couple minutes, I want everyone to retest. So whatever it was, your squat, your toe touch, or your push-up. We're gonna go around the room to see feelings before and after. Okay, and then as we go through, We'll start with James and work our way around.
Toe touch was definitely easier.
Mm-hmm.
And less sort of hot spots through the hamstrings, but the push-up and squat felt great before. So.
Okay, cool. Well, anything different? Same, worse?
Really bad, it's a huge change.
Mm-hmm. No huge change?
Tension.
Pardon?
Way less tension.
Tension?
Like opening my hips and stuff.
Perfect. Anything over there with you guys?
Same, Sam.
Yeah, no, I definitely noticed less tension in my hips, and I think that because we just did a big bunch of testing and stuff like this, you know, I had like some soreness from that, and I feel like that definitely reduced.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, my squat was a lot better, and I didn't feel like as much tension in my glutes and hamstrings. So yeah.
Perfect. The point of it is to show everyone, unfortunately it didn't happen for everyone in the room, all we had to focus on was just your breathing for a couple of minutes and movements got easier. We didn't have to coach them, we didn't have to cue them, we didn't have to do anything. Because your body is a self-organizing system, and what that means is if you put it in the right position, it'll start to do these things more efficiently, naturally. So it doesn't take a lot, just 3 minutes of breathing, and effective breathing is really good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to progress it on, because we want to do a little bit of a mobility circuit to start to warm this up. We'll reassess again. But as we go through, I want you to keep that foundation, that understanding of that same breath, how easy it felt for you, because as we build it up, it'll get a little more challenging. But I want you to try and breathe as deep as you did on your back then. So we're going to start on our stomach. Elbows start from under your shoulder and go a little bit wider, okay? Before we start moving, I just want everyone to focus on breathing into this position, okay? So it's a nice active position, tongue still pressed against the roof of your mouth. Long in, long exhale. Okay, so we're not trying to worry about how long the exhale is, how long the inhale is, whatever is comfortable for you at the start. And if you can imagine someone's putting a plate on the top of your head, if I drop it, I'm smashing it. So I want to get up nice and tall. I want my crown nice and tall. Now this should feel, for some people, probably a bit more restrictive than what we just did on your back. But as you focus on your breathing, what I'm going to get you to start to do is a little bit of nodding. So your eyes will look down. You're going to look all the way down, then eyes up, head up, and we're going to do this 15 times. Now, as you go through it, I want you to keep breathing, okay? Keep moving. Some people might start to feel a bit of a challenge of trying to breathe and move at the same time, okay? But that's okay. As you're coming up, eyes up, head up, look all the way to the roof. There we go. Eyes down, head down. You want to take your eyes through that full range first, then your head through the full range as well.
Should we be matching our breath to the movement at all?
So you can, if you want to try and optimize it, breathe in on the look up, breathe out on your look down. That has to come with the way that the rib cage moves. So for you, even if you get taller through your chest, there you go. But again, you don't have to, as long as you're still breathing on top of the movement. So same thing, if you get taller through your chest, as much as you can, try and get up there, hold it there. Now hold it there and try and breathe. It makes it a little more challenging, but that's where you get the best benefit from it, trying to breathe and open up. And when you've done your 15 odd reps, same position, rotating. So it'll be eyes to the right. You're going to look all the way over, trying to look at your opposite foot. Now let your body pivot with it as well. Then look left. Same sort of thing. Don't try and stay rigid. Let your body move. Because we're trying to take that rib cage and neck through some nice movement. So about 10 to 12, so 6 each way, moving through. Remember, we're still tongue against the roof of the mouth. We're still trying to breathe in through our nose. And if you can remember that plate analogy, plates on top of the head, we're trying to stay nice and tall, nice and prominent, even as we're turning. Nice, guys, nice. And if you have that intent to look to your opposite foot, you're going to get that little bit further each time, which is perfect. Now, whilst we call this a movement, whatever it is, think of it as loaded breathing. You're taking your breathing into a different position that's more challenging, particularly in one spot, and trying to access it. So it's a bit harder to breathe when you're up like that, right? It's a little bit more stressful. So if I feel stressful there, I feel stiff, I'm never going to breathe there as well. So I can't get my intra-abdominal pressure, okay? Something that's very important that comes when you breathe down into your stomach. And as we get up to the squat, it'll help you understand a little bit with like the mechanics of the movement, why that's very important. And we're going to start to work our way up. We're coming up onto our hands and knees into our rocking position. Now, all I want you guys to do is just rock backwards and forwards. As you come up, I want you to breathe out, breathe in on your way down. We're trying to keep our spine in that neutral position, okay? Something you would do for a squat or a deadlift. Breathe in, breathe out. Now you want to sit right back into it. Really feel like you're going down and coming back up. As we breathe in, on the way down, we're really putting a stretch on that pelvic floor. Okay, that's the basement. That's where everything's held up from. As we exhale and we come up, we're moving it all up through range. Perfect, guys. We're keeping good contact with our hands on the ground. So if you have your fingers spread, or all fingers on the ground. Looking forward. Keep your eyes up. So again, whilst this is a nice rocking drill, you're taking your diaphragm and pelvic floor through full range, really starting to get your mobility going, but also the control. And then once we've finished our rocking, straight into some nice easy cow, cat, camel that most people know. I would suggest breathing out as you try to tuck under as much as you can. Breathing in as you're looking up. Now, as we start to lay these exercises, as you go up, I want eyes up, head up. Let your eyes guide the movement. Eyes down, head down, tuck under as you exhale. All the way up and all the way the other way. So tuck under, press up into my finger, there you go. At each of the ends of the range, whether you're down or you're up, try and pause there and try and take a full breath and see how it feels compared to what we did at the start, okay? See if you can access as much of that breath as you could, lying on your back in the comfortable position. Those positions at end of range are often a lot harder. A really good skill is to figure out whatever the exercise is, squat, deadlift, lunge, pull up. Find the start and end ranges, practice the breath there. Can you access it? If you can, you own it. If you can't, you don't own that position. So when you go to do the motion, it's a lot harder. Okay? All right. Now, if everyone just wants to jump up, try your squat, toe touch, push up, and have a feel. It's a good crack. Yeah, all sorts of movements going on over that side of the room. And the same thing, any differences this time?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, what did you feel? What was the sensation?
Just a lot less tension.
Tension? Perfect.
Yeah, a lot less tension. I'm just realizing that like a lot of this stuff is the stuff that I do in yoga. Like it's matching your movement to your breath, and I love this kind of stuff.
It's very simple, and it should always match up across. The only problem with it, I think, that we found is people slightly go off a little bit of a tangent sometimes. If you match everything to your anatomy and match that to breathing, you'll find that yoga and all those movements are much more accessible, and you can actually figure out where you feel stiff. Rather than try to fight through it, you go, oh yeah, now try and breathe through it, and then you'll find a much bigger benefit much faster. Good try over you as well, Mikhail.
Sorry, I didn't do the squat before, but I actually felt that squat was like smoother.
Yep.
Like my joints kind of like were like oiled or something, you know what I mean? Like usually I feel a bit like achy first squat, but that was first squat of the day. So yeah.
Perfect. Anything for you, sir?
Toe touch a little better.
Yeah, cool. Anything different that time? We're going to have to put some more work over in that corner, I think. That's all it seems like. But again, what is this designed to do is those movements, I think most people have probably tried something similar at some point in their life. They're not overly complicated, but they're looking at your trunk and they're going, okay, can I make this a little bit harder? Can I try to access my diaphragm? So in my head, all I'm thinking about is pelvic floor diaphragm. If I go into any position, can I make them move well? Because if I can, I start to own it and I feel calm. If I'm focusing on my breathing, I'm not starting to panic, so I'm not going to lose my respiration. I'm not going to lose the position, and I'm going to feel like everything's a bit easier. Okay, so that was just the general one. You can do so many different exercises for it. Okay, they're not magic exercises, they're just simple things that I think people could start doing. But what we want to do now is, because you've worked through it, we're going to try and build you up into a squat. Okay, you've already done a lot of the low-lying stuff, so we're going to skip some of them and go straight into a side, what looks like a side plank effectively, to start breathing there before we work all the way up into a squat. And then we'll see how hopefully the squat starts to feel a bit better. Okay, so with your mat, don't have to spin it, I'm just doing it for the sake of ease. With your elbow, I want you to put it straight under your shoulder, your knees straight in line with your body, come up and then hook one leg around, okay? Now that leg or that foot should be facing straight off. I want a big prominent chest. You're gonna try and take 6 breaths in this position, okay? Long inhale, long exhale. As you exhale, try and push that top knee away from your body, okay? Really open up your hips. Yeah, that way on your exhale. Do you mind if I touch it?
Yep.
Yeah, so if you bring your foot a little bit higher, perfect. As you exhale, drive it that way. Stay nice and high. Keep that foot flat on the ground. Same thing for you. You keep it there and then drive the knee wider. You should feel your bum switch on, opening up the hip. Same for the, so really good. With your foot, if you face it this way, so keep your foot facing forward and flat. Try and just open up from the knee. Keep the foot on the ground, foot on the ground. So that's your firm base, the support. Really start to switch on through your glute. Same for you, Michaela. Keep your foot still, open up here. It's a bit challenging, right? Yeah. And when you've done 6 on one side, 6 on the other side. Did you find it harder to access the breathing?
No, I like that. And then when cat-cow found that, once I accessed, I was like, oh.
Yeah, good. A new level of motion.
Yeah, that's so nice.
So same thing on this opposite side. Yeah. Perfect. Keep your foot nice and flat, and then you're going to open up from your knee. Drive that wide. Yeah. I blame Tony. If you can get off the ground, perfect. Okay. You're trying to keep your sort of nice and a nice alignment, I suppose. If you roll backwards a smidgen, thinking like ear to foot almost, and then try to drive that knee wider. And if you want to try and access a little bit more, make it harder, reach that hand overhead just like you did, but more this way. And I want you to imagine you try and touch the light. Really open up that whole side. So this is you on your side trying to access that breathing. It should be a little bit more difficult, particularly from where we started. And then we're just going to come straight back onto our hands and knees, then hover up. And I want, same thing, 6 breaths in that position. Long, slow, and calm. So your knees are right under your hips, your hands are right under your shoulders. You're starting to challenge that breathing. Keep your bum high. With your head, gaze forward, okay? So don't look up at the roof. Kind of look at the corner of where the curtain is from these people over here. You guys over this way, down towards the frame. Keep your fingers spread, press down. Yep, 6. So 6 long and slow breaths. So the biggest difference is as it gets a little bit harder, it gets a little bit more stressful. And that's an indicator that that position is not as good for you as the one on the ground, right? So what your objective then is to learn to hold that position actively. Really long inhale, really long exhale, okay? Now for everyone, depending on how comfortable you feel, this is where the squat gets a little bit more fun. If we're gonna come up to your squat position, we won't modify anything just yet, and try and do the same thing. Gonna hold the squat for 6 breaths, okay? Go to the deep spot that you can maintain a nice spinal posture. Now, as you're in that position, probably not so much Michaela, but I want everyone to keep your feet still. Try and drive your knees a little wider. Head up. And see if you can get your chest up a little high. There we go. Long inhale, long exhale. It's challenging, right?
Yeah.
For multiple reasons. But again, it's a bit harder as you get higher up. The reason for that's gravity, okay? Gravity's a bitch. It makes everything harder. Now, if we go into why, if we think about lying on your back, you've got your diaphragm and pelvic floor just sitting this way, okay? Very simple. As you breathe in and out, gravity's not really affecting it, so it makes it a bit easier. There's less muscle activation, less things going on, so it's much easier. The moment we go, okay, let's make it a little bit harder, so whether we flip you onto your back or stomach, go onto your side. Again, it's not too challenging, but it's still a different position. Then we go onto your hands and knees, then the muscle activation starts to come in. But the moment you start rising up, the moment gravity starts affecting it. So everything in the squatting sensation, everything in the running sensation starts to become very important. If I can't access that position, then I can't breathe in that position. I'm going to feel stressed. I'm going to lose my mechanics, going to lose my state, and my physiology is going out the window. So again, it's all related back to how you breathe and what manner, okay? The whole point of that series is to show everyone that it actually gets a bit more challenging in positions. So the practical tool for you is not to necessarily do what we've done here today, but when you go out and you're going to do your lat pull down, you're going to do your squat, you're going to do your row, you're going to do your bicep curl, wherever you are, can you access that full inhale, exhale? Because if you can't, you know something's not quite right. Now there's lots of different reasons for that. It could be your feet, it could just be your mobility, it could just be that you haven't practiced it before, it's just a new skill, for sure. But again, take the principle of it that I should be able to access that whole thing. Okay? Now, before we move on to that next section of some of the drills, does anyone have any questions with that stuff? Is there anything else that would like further explanation on that stuff there?
Does that just translate to swimming as well?
Swimming is slightly different only because you have to breathe through your mouth. And your base of support is your trunk. So if the trunk doesn't do its good job, traditionally if the core isn't doing its job, it's a lot harder to access your hands and your feet to do their job as well as they could. But the principle's still the same, right? If you don't know how to access it first, and you don't know how to stay calm under the stress, which is what we're about to go into, it's hard to stroke well and get a good stroke count, okay?
So you don't ever want to be going into your nose and out through your mouth?
So it's a great question. I want the basis to always be in and out through the nose. Okay, I want that efficiency. I want you to be able to access the muscles. When you start to get to high level intensity of exercise, so when we start to get more towards what we call your threshold, your lactate threshold, ventilatory threshold, going out through your mouth is very beneficial because you're going to get rid of the excess CO2. Right, so CO2 is not just a waste gas, it just gets framed that way, but when you're starting to train harder and harder and harder, yes, you want to get rid of more of it, which is where we go to running. The big thing with running that most people do is they run too fast too often. Right? You should be able to run very comfortably for a very long time. Your aerobic system's designed that way, okay? It's what we call zone 2 training, which is mostly around, can you continue running at a speed that you can talk, or that you can, every time I ask you to, can you say 181, 182, 183, 184, 185 in one breath? What does it mean? It just means that your body is building up the lactate but removing the lactate. You're not going to get sore the next day because your body is at an intensity that it can tolerate. The beautiful thing of HIIT training and anaerobic training is you can get a lot of the benefits for that in a short period of time. There's some stuff that doesn't quite happen. But if you're going up here, you might want to blow out through your mouth for sure. But you don't want to be... That pursed-lipped breathing will still allow you to access your abs, so to keep your mechanics and to blow off the excess CO2. Right? Because like, as a good example, if you're in the UFC fighting, you're going to get real knackered real fast, right? Like that stuff's pretty intense. So you don't want to be necessarily straight away because you might be too calm and that's not going to help, but you're also not going to get rid of as much CO2. So it's the horses for courses, but the basic foundation is in and out through the nose, and then you can build upon it. Yeah? Okay? So now, with that in mind, what we're going to do is the additional test, okay? Because what we're going to start to do is stress your physiology a little bit more. We're going to do it comfortably and slowly first, and this is where it starts to help with running a little bit more, because it's about CO2 tolerance, okay? It's called a BOLT score, so a body oxygen level test. Effectively, all it means is how sensitive is your body to carbon dioxide at this very moment, okay? It's not very challenging. I'm going to get my clock up on my iPad so you can time it yourselves individually. The way it works is you'll take a nice quiet breath in through your nose, nice quiet breath out through your nose, and then pinch your nose. You're going to hold that until the very first sign to breathe. So all that means is you might feel like a flutter in your stomach, flutter in your throat. You might feel straight away that you need to take a breath straight away again. That's fine, because we just want to get a baseline for you guys, okay? But it's the very first inkling. It's not how long you can hold your breath for. So the example would be in. And then I'm going to hold that until I feel the very first urge to breathe. But we're going to time it because I want everyone to get their own sort of score before we work into it, okay? And we'll do it 2 or 3 times at the start just to get used to it because there's a training effect. But if everyone wants to just breathe in at your own speed, breathe out at your own speed and pinch, and just watch the clock. Whenever it is, you get that very first inkling to breathe. Once you've done one, take about 20, 30 seconds and then repeat it again. We'll get a few scores. So where this becomes important as we're doing conditioning work, as we're doing running, as our metabolism goes up, we're going to build up more CO2. And if we're losing or we're not tolerant of it, like we've already explained, the mechanics not going to work so good, your state's not going to be so good, and it's an indicator that your physiology is not as good as it could be for efficiency. So, pretty much seen everyone do it a couple of times. If you're on your last one, we'll finish it off and then we'll just get a few scores as we go around the room. All right, how'd you go?
Like averaging like 7 or 8.
7 or 8 seconds? 10?
I got 12 on the first one, and I think 10 on the second one.
17 and 19.
Cool.
7.
About 4.
4?
Just under.
15?
25 and 20.
Now, we'll give it a bit of a note that he already knows a little bit about this. He lives next door to me and we talk about this stuff all the time. But as an indicator, the reason it becomes important is because if your body is reacting to the CO2 very quickly and anything under 25 seconds, it means that you're going to start to breathe much faster, much quicker. You're going to react much faster. So a paper came out a couple of years ago that sort of indicates that that test is a very good indicator that if you score over 25%, you have a 90% chance of not having any breathing pattern disorders. That means for everyone else who's under 25 seconds, there is something that can be done with your breath right now that's going to improve the way that you train, move, or feel. That's the cool part for everyone besides James. Okay?
Still
How about if you're asthmatic? Is there any kind of correlation with asthma?
Yes.
Because I know I'm asthmatic, so I tend to be more of a mouth breather just because I can't.
Yeah.
And the other thing was also those turbo handlers. Have you had any experience with those?
Yeah, I've never used those personally. I've used the nasal strips, so the Breathe Right nasal strips. One of the things was not so much designed for today's course, but with the way that you breathe, there's multiple factors that might stop you from breathing through your nose. Okay, so whether that's a sinus thing, whether it's your nostrils are collapsing as you're breathing in, whether your windpipe doesn't have as much volume capacity. Those things I've seen a couple of people use with success, but I think it's all the same. I think everyone's physiology is so different. Something different will work for each person. With asthma, your sensitivity is often much higher. okay, just CO2 straight away, because a lot of what you get taught from the GP still is that when you're starting to have an asthma attack, you want to take a big breath in, you want to calm down. It doesn't work though.
So the way you breathe out.
Yeah, so the biggest way to do it is actually take a long, slow breath in through your nose and a long, slow breath out through your nose, because your nose is designed for breathing, okay? It humidifies the air, which then causes less irritant in the throat. It has all the hair molecules in there. It has the nitric oxide, which opens things up. So you're cleansing the air, you're making it ready for entry into the body. The mouth, as good as it is for eating food, does not do any of that. You just take it in, it gets cold, it gets a bit itchy. The cold, as you know better than anyone, can start to set off that bronchoconstriction feeling. But what do we say about breathing through the nose and nitric oxide? It opens it up. So even though it seems counterintuitive that if you see someone who's stressful and you say take a big breath, because it's the thing that we get taught to do, a long, slow breath through the nose will be far better than taking a big breath in through your mouth. Okay? And it just comes back down to that physiology. So even with those things, I would try them personally. Like, okay, I'm not going to give you any professional advice, but trial and error this stuff. Yeah. No, I often use the breathe through right nasal strips, because I know my left nostril will collapse under more intense exercise after some experimenting with it. And there's a lot of practicing and drills with that. A bit hard, but again, these things are pretty fun to experiment with. But now everyone kind of remembers their rough score. We're going to run through a step-up drill. Reason being, this is going to help you set up for the next drill, but this is the concentration or being alert all day type stuff, okay? So the way it works is 3 phases. The first one is a cadence breath. So we're going to start with a 3-second breath in, 3-second breath out. Pretty simple. Going to do it 5 times. Okay, so if everyone wants to practice just doing that little speed first, just to get a bit of an understanding of 3 seconds in roughly in your own head, because I'll count it out when we do it. Now you can do it in sitting or lying on your back, because the drill itself is going to go for 7 minutes. Okay, so get comfortable. So just practice the 3-second in, 3-second out first, with the same principles we applied earlier, in through your stomach and in through your nose. Really trying to feel that nice expansion. Okay. Then the second phase of our drill is a superventilation. Okay, so the way this one's going to work is you're going to go in through your nose with a little bit more force. And then you're just going to let it go. So 100% in, and then let it out through the nose. So if we practice 5 to 10 of those. Now, if you want, you can try to burst it out through your nose as well with a quick burst. Breath in, burst out. What I would suggest is don't try maximal effort for that one. Okay, that is going to be an upregulator. So just be mindful of it.
What do you mean upregulator?
So it's going to wake you up. Okay, it's going to get your sympathetic nervous system upregulated. So far with the breathing drills that we've done, it's more of that parasympathetic calming effect. And then once you've done the required number of breaths for that, we're going to do a breath hold. So on that very last one, you take your breath out, you hold your breath until you feel like you need to breathe again. So for most people, as we've seen, we've sort of got some markers. I'm just going to set the timer for 30 seconds, and then that's round 1. And we're going to go through 3 rounds because we want to build through. And then once we've completed it, we're actually going to then do your bolt score again. Okay, so on my count, I want everyone to start breathing in for 3 seconds and out for 3 seconds. And we're going to do it 5 times. So breathing in, 2, 3, out, 2, 3. In, 2, 3, out. 2, 3. In, 2, 3. Out. 2, 3. In, 2, 3. Out. 2, 3. One more here. Keep the tongue pressed against the roof of the mouth as you inhale and exhale. So let's go on to those superventilations. I'm going for 20 of them. So in, 100% in, let it go. 100% in. Let it go. 100% in, let it go. Maintaining that same breath wave. It's in through your stomach, expand up into your chest, but it's 100% in and let it go. Go whatever speed feels comfortable and tolerable. I want to get full in. Feel like you're expanding your rib cage, expanding through your stomach. Get all that access. Okay, we'll go for 3 more of those. Okay, big breath in, let it go. Big breath in, let it go. On this last one, big breath in, let it go, and then I want you to hold your breath, so no more breathing. Now you're going to sit with that feeling for as long as you can. You might feel a twitch in the throat, you might feel your diaphragm flicker or twitch. You might even just have the general sensation, the urge to breathe. But if you can, try and go for that full 30 seconds, build up that moderate to strong feeling. On our second round, it's going to be a 4-second breath in, 4-second breath out. Everyone take a breath in, that's your 30 seconds. All right, so we're going to start it. Okay, on my count, it's a 4-second breath in. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. 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 One more, same thing. Really go slower than that last one. Nice and slow out. And when you've done that, we're going to 25 of those super ventilations, those big breaths. Breathe it in, 100%, let it go. Big breath in, let it go. Keep that breath wave going from your stomach up to your chest. It's all in and out through your nose. Really focus on how it's feeling in the body, what you're starting to feel. Big breath in, let it go. Big breath in, let it go. You're thinking 100% in. You're filling up every last bit of your lungs. Just let it go, let it go, let it out. Big breath in. Okay, we got 4 more, 4 more. Big breath in, let it go. Big breath in, let it go. Big breath in, let it go. And on this last one, we're going to try and hold our breath for 45 seconds. Let it go, let it go. Now let's hold our breath. If you feel that big urge, that moderate to strong urge to breathe and you need to, that's okay. But I'm timing it for 45 seconds. I want you to sit with that feeling as long as you can. Right. Now gently take a long breath in through your nose. We've got 1 more round. So this time it's going to be 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, 30 of those big breaths, and then a longer breath hold. Okay, so when you're ready, on my count, we're going to breathe in for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what I want you to really start to focus on when you get to your big breaths, 100% in, all the way out. You got 30 of them, okay? So where it starts to get a little bit more stressful, but big breath in, let it go. Go your own rhythm, your own speed, but big breath in, let it go. Big breath wave. Tongue on the roof of the mouth. Big breath in, let it go. We got 5 more. 4, 3, 2. And on this last one, breathe out and hold your breath. And we're going to try and go for a minute. So sit with the feeling. You might feel a little bit dizzy. You might feel a little bit of a I need to breathe sensation. That's okay. But when you get to this minute, that first breath back in, long and slow through your nose. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in through your nose, long and slow. And then when you feel ready, we'll sit up, take stock. So that was a 7-minute breathing drill that takes you through a bit of everything. Your cadence breathing, that very first breathing, is more calming. Okay, it's that parasympathetic effect. That next breathing, superventilation is the easy term for it, is an upregulator. It's a sympathetic nervous system effect. Okay, your breath hold then provides in the concentration. So why does this become important for not only performance, but not only for lifting, for concentration all day? Because we need to understand that balance. We need to get ourselves in what we call the window of tolerance. Okay, you're not over-aroused, you're not under-aroused, you're in this zone. Now, it'd be interesting to hear, did anyone feel any difference of how they're feeling before and after? Do you feel any different? Me?
I just feel like lightheaded now.
Yeah?
I feel like I have more oxygen in my brain.
Yeah, I am now smarter. I'm putting that on my Instagram page. Breathing made me smarter. I'm claiming that.
Yeah, get a really good balance feeling. It's the same that I get when I do yoga. I just feel, it's almost like an endorphin kick, or like when you do a lot of stretching, things like that. Yeah.
Perfect.
A little more relaxed. I think, yeah.
Not only enough of that is symptoms of hypoxia. A sort of vision sort of lost around the edges.
Yeah, cool. Are you feeling all right sitting up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt a bit lightheaded.
Yep.
But similar to you, the yoga kind of.
Feel more zen. Just chill and aware.
Now, for the 7 minutes, besides my annoying voice speaking over the top, did anyone think about anything else? Or were you pretty focused on what you were doing? Welcome to meditation. Meditation doesn't have to be sit down trying to think about something, because you can't outsmart your own brain. It's not possible. But we know if you get into a good flow state, you get into a good running state, you get into a good lifting state, you focus on whatever the hell it is you're doing. That drill is designed to increase concentration, to be very focused on whatever it is you're doing, very attentive. It also comes with using your nervous system, both sides of it. As you felt, you're getting your diaphragm going through full range, you're getting your rib cage going through full range. So if you only had 7 minutes a day to do anything that's super important, that's the drill I pick every time, because it gets a lot of benefits for everything. That sensation of being here and now, being alert, being focused, getting your body mobilized from not doing anything other than breathing, and it only takes 7 minutes. Now that drill, it's called step up drill. I will be sending that around to Tony as a bit of a handout as well as a part of the stuff afterwards, so don't feel like you have to remember it, but it's the one that I do the most of. I think it's great. But what we're going to do is quickly is we're going to retest that bolt score test. It's the same thing to see how everyone feels straight away, okay? So it's the same thing. You're going to breathe in through your nose, out through your nose, pinch your nose. I just want to see if your time's any different, okay? So your own speed. I'm just the clock guy. Now, I'm not even sure we have to do this a second time, because if I'm looking at this correctly, I think everyone went longer. I don't think anyone went any less than what you told me the first time.
No way. So when you mean that first need to breathe, like, do you mean a physical reaction? Like, there's a mental kind of thing where I guess, I don't know. I kind of have problems separating when I really need to breathe, because I feel like I could probably have just sat there for another 20 seconds.
Yep.
Really.
So it's a bit of both. It is the physical nature. So if you feel like the urge to breathe from your diaphragm kicking in, or that tickle in your throat, I would classify that as the very first urge to physically breathe.
Yeah.
Right? Or you might have the more conscious, I'm drowning, panicking sensation of needing to take the air in. Okay, it's like just air hunger. So whichever one sort of comes first, in the test point of view, doesn't really matter. It's just that's the very first urge of your body. Okay, so I'd imagine with most people, you can hold your breath a lot longer than what we've just done there, all right? Yeah. And that's normal, that's part of it. But there is another test that looks at that. But the reason that I find that test more effective is it makes you more attuned to your body. You have to think about, what is the first urge? Like, am I actually paying attention? It's very interoceptive, okay? Yeah. And the first person I saw was you. I don't know what you got the second time, but it was much more than 7 seconds.
Yeah, no, so it just felt normal. I just focused and you look at the clock. I think it was the thing. I just didn't look at the clock. I was just focusing on.
Exactly. So the drill carries over not only in the physical effects of the way your body is now getting this relationship with CO2, but also the concentration aspect. Yeah. You can focus on, this feels okay. This isn't panicky. Okay, it's how big wave surfers do it. Okay, they learn to tolerate it. It's how people learn to get really good with running. You build up that tolerance. Okay, so then the last drill we want to do of the day to help with the performance stuff is a little bit more of the breath holding stuff. This is where it comes a little bit more into running, and then there's a few progressions onto it. But we're going to start very simple. And for this one, everyone has to stand up. So we'll get the mats out of the road because we're going to be using the whole length of the wall to really build onto what you've just done. Now, the way this one's going to work, and again, I don't want anyone to push this too hard, but we're starting off at hopefully what feels like an easy level for most people after that drill. I'm going to take a breath in, I'm going to breathe out, I'm going to pinch my nose, and I'm going to walk. Now, everyone's walking speed is going to be a little different, but I want you to walk about 10 to 15 paces, and then we're going to stop, take a breath, keep walking, wait about 30, 60 seconds, and then repeat 5 times. So I'm just going to demonstrate one so everyone can kind of see what it looks like. So breath in, exhale, .15 breaths, take a breath in, keep walking slowly, regain your normal breath, In and out through the nose. Now for 30 seconds, just breathe normally. Breathe comfortably. Now these are little short breath holds, okay? So as we build them up, as we can make them harder, this becomes important because it gets your spleen to contract. Why is that important? Because it has more blood in there. And if we can release more blood into your system, we can get more oxygen transport, which allows you to be more efficient with running. You can get more endurance. You're also learning to be more tolerant of CO2 buildup. So let's go again. So we're going to take a breath in through your nose, exhale, pinch your nose. And when you take 15 steps, count them yourself. And when you've taken your 15 steps, take a normal breath in through your nose. And keep going for another 30 seconds. We're going for 5 times. This is a walking race and you're getting overlapped. All right, so when you're ready, breathe in, exhale, pinch your nose, go again. You're starting getting used to longer breath holding. So when it comes to conditioning particularly, this is a very early basic example, but this is you trying to practice these breath holds or breathing with a little bit of a harder stimulus. So we're going to build this up to longer steps today, and that's where we'll probably stop it. But this can go into running, this can go into any conditioning. Learning how to breath hold and move and feel comfortable under that tolerance is a very useful skill to keep your mind focused on what you're doing. All right, breathe in through your nose, exhale, pinch your nose, take 15 steps. Tony's got a bit of a weight here, so he's doing it a bit loaded. Mm-hmm. Yes, because you start to panic, right? So this is why we only do 15 steps first. We want to ease into it, okay? Make it comfortable. All right. All right. Let's do one more. So when you breathe in, exhale, keep walking. And then I want everyone to stop in place after that, just for a second. So this is where you have the option, right? So that's the very first and easy way. It's the preparation for what we call altitude training, okay? You're creating a hypoxic environment by moving. You're making your body use the oxygen. You're obviously not breathing, so you're not getting an extra in. The CO2 is building up. You've got to get tolerant. Now, did anyone feel lightheaded or dizzy? Lightheaded or dizzy? A little bit? So I'd recommend not doing the next one, just because I think that's a very good entry point for you, okay? The reason is you're going to do the same thing, but I want you to take as many steps as you can before you build up a moderate to strong need to breathe, okay? Now, probably easiest to go up and back so we don't crash into each other, but the rule here is simple. I don't want you to push to the point you feel like you're about to pass out, okay? But I want you to experience what it feels like. Biggest things you might feel, a little bit of dizziness, a little lightheadedness, they might come in. You might feel sensations the whole way down to your feet, okay? But what I want you to do is we're going to practice it. So once you take your lap, however many steps it is, keep walking, but start to regain your normal breathing pattern in 2 or 3 breaths. If you can't do that, you push too hard, okay? So I reckon if we start down at the curtain den, so we can walk up this way. So everyone at their own speed and own time. 11:30, yeah. Yeah, this is the last drill, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, when you're ready, take your breath in, breathe out, and I want you to walk as many steps, count your own steps as you can, before you feel the big need to breathe. Go for it. Is lightheadedness gone?
I've got low blood pressure.
Oh, yeah, no, that would make sense. Mm. And it's almost lunchtime too. When you're there, start to breathe normally, keep walking. Keep walking as you're breathing. Yeah, don't stop, don't, yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna do just one more rep, just as an introduction, but you got 2 minutes of just normal walking.
How many breaths should you take to get back to normal?
2 or 3.
2 or 3.
Yeah. How many steps did you get, Duna?
42.
Yeah. How many steps did you girls get? 20, 25? Yeah, no. So just keep walking, just keep going. You've got a couple of minutes. So when we start to do maximal breath holds, you get 2 minutes rest. This is a strength exercise. This is challenging. This is why it's hard, right? So you're gonna push it. Yeah, we'll do one more. Yeah. But not yet. Yeah, you got another like 30 seconds. So what the research shows is if we do 5 maximal breath holds like this with 2 minutes rest in between, we get a really good release of those red blood cells. That'll last for a minimum of 10 minutes, but up to 60. So if we're looking to be a little bit more efficient with our running, for example, I can cheat code my body into having more oxygen by releasing more red blood cells.
So do you need to put pressure when you're holding your breath in order to play with your spleen, or
It'll just do it because of the hypoxic nature. It'll react and go, crap, I need more red blood cells, I need more oxygen, I'll release more red blood cells. Right, when you're ready in your own time, breathe in, exhale, pinch your nose and take as many steps as you comfortably can, building up that moderate to strong need to breathe. Just don't push until you pass out. In through your nose, straight away, 2 or 3 breaths. It's hard. Sorry. Nah. And when everyone's finished, we'll just finish up on the curtain side, I suppose. We'll bring it back. So yeah, what'd you get the second time?
Like 20.
Yeah, so what it means is that rep period or the rest period isn't long enough for you. That's all it means. So instead of 2 minutes, you might need to take 3 minutes. Yeah, that's all it is, right? Did it?
Want to make it more or the same each?
More. Yeah, more. I mean, you get more or less the second time.
I had 2 steps less than the second.
Yeah. Same? Less?
I only did it once.
Yeah.
3 steps less.
Yeah. So probably even at that 2 minute period, because this is probably the first time you guys have tried it, I suppose, your body reacts a little differently. With all training, right? If I go and do like a heavy lift, it obviously takes me 2 or 3 minutes to recover before I can go again, yeah? If I try and push quicker, I can still do it, but I'm going to fatigue, the form disappears and I don't get as many reps. It's the same thing, right? So when we introduce it, it's a really, really simple exercise, but 2 minutes just is not long enough as a rest, okay? But if we think about what the timing that we spoke about before, if you want 25 seconds for a bolt score, you're going to want like 40 to 45 steps as a minimum to make sure that you're starting to tolerate CO2 buildup and feeling good. It doesn't take very long to get there from the start, but the more that you can build it up, the better, because your body is more resilient, okay?
Thank you.
No, thank you very much. So that was it. So for what we ran through today is to recap, you have now understand the basics, okay? That state, physiology, and mechanics are all interlinked, that you can't separate one from another, but if this doesn't move, you can't breathe. Basic breathing drills, starting on your back, on your stomach, onto your hands, in the squat position, taking that idea and applying it to everything that you do, all your exercises, okay? All your running postures. We then built that up and we went through a step-up drill, which is not only gonna help you with tolerance of CO2, it's gonna help concentration, it's gonna help focus, and it's really gonna help you feel more present, which then helps the sleep stuff, because if you're more present, you're not worried about the outside world, okay? There was more onto the sleep stuff, we just ran out of time. And then this one here, which is really designed for aerobic training. Yeah. This is where it starts to get more fun, but can you see how if you don't understand the first stuff, it's too hard to get to this part, okay?
So do you reckon that the meditation will help you sleep? Like if you were to do that before bed?
I wouldn't do that version before bed, but it's more so towards that afternoon. Like if say particularly like 2 to 4 o'clock where everyone gets a bit drowsy, right? You need a wake up call that's natural, use something like that, because then you'll get yourself more zen. When it comes to better sleeping, I would use more of a box breath drill or just long, prolonged exhales. Because again, your exhale is linked to your parasympathetic nervous system. The longer we breathe out, the calmer our body gets. So often what I'll do is I will honestly just set a headspace timer on and just breathe out slowly for 10 minutes and then pass out. I fall asleep within 5 minutes most of the time anyway, but it's just practice, right? But again, we will end up doing more of that depending on the times. There's always more we can do with sleeping if we want to run another seminar at some point. And there's more of this stuff. This is just the introductory to how you then start to access the cool aerobic capacity. But does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Okay, so when you're exercising heavily, right?
Yep.
Say like you're sprinting or whatever, and you are breathing very fast through your mouth, sort of like mimicking like hyperventilation.
Yep.
That's obviously going to cause a buildup of CO2. So are these drills, this is just more stuff for me to understand, are these drills trying to prolong that hyperventilation?
We're trying to make you hyperventilate less so you can be more efficient. So
less CO2, less lactic acid, less
best
recovery.
analogy that I can come up for you.
Yeah.
If you imagine a pyramid,
Yeah.
right? Really wide base, right?
Yeah.
The top part, really small. Now, if I take away the base, what happens?
There's less.
Yeah, it's not as stable, is it?
Yeah, so if you're not taking that deep breath down to the bottom of the pyramid, you're going, you're just getting this tiny little bit right here at the top of the pyramid.
Okay, so what you're trying to do is create the solid foundation, because if you build from the ground up, what ends up happening is the top is a lot more efficient. If I build a house and it has terrible structure, it's going to fall. If I build a house with a really strong foundation, I don't have wet cement, I have very firm cement, I got it on a good spot, it's not on some funky ass slope, it's much more robust. So when you get to the top part, it is a lot easier to access, it's a lot easier to use that well.
Yeah.
Okay, but if the base is not sturdy, your brain, your body, subconsciously and consciously can't even access how to do it well up here. So when it comes to doing things really, really intensely, first get the base right.
Yeah.
And then when you get into that, A, you'll have less hyperventilation because you're more prepared.
Yeah.
But B, then you understand that once I've done that quick hyperventilation, because I've exerted a lot of effort, I know what to go back to. I'm not going to just keep ventilating here. I got to go back to this to then make my base still strong.
Lactic acid buildup, because you're talking about CO2 tolerance, and when you're hyperventilating, you're obviously retaining it. Can you explain
probably
that?
the best way to look at the lactate and the lactic threshold stuff.
Yeah.
Once you hit a certain heart rate, particularly, or a certain work intensity, we get this really slow to quick buildup of lactic depending on how fast or how hard you're doing something, right?
Yeah.
Now, if we're doing something in more of an aerobic zone and we're doing it slow enough, you still have the buildup of lactic. It just gets removed just as efficiently as it comes in.
Yeah.
So body has a net of 0.
Yeah.
As the exercise intensity goes up higher, we still build up more lactate, but we don't remove it as quick. So the net buildup of lactate is a bit more, right? So what we're trying to do is shift you from being really good over here and pushing that as far as we can this way. It's the same as the base. I'm trying to build it up as far as we can this way, so you then don't have to worry about the lactic buildup.
Yeah.
So when you go for, let's just use the easy example, 10K run, right? You can wake up feeling like you didn't do anything yesterday. Why? Because you know where your threshold is and you know how to control it. It's how you can run 60Ks a week and feel totally fine. But if you don't know that, you'll go out and try and beat the time, each time going faster and faster. And you go, man, I'm sore today, right? Or it's same in the gym, do a heavy deadlift. If I was trying to do strength training every day, oh man, those stairs are hard. From an evolutionary and survival perspective, does that make any sense?
No.
Like I can't move, tiger comes, I'm dead.
Yeah.
So it's utilizing what the evolution of our body is designed for and actually applying it to sports science.
Love that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Why do we have the, when you see somebody who's under duress, why do they start to breathe through their mouth?
So at a certain point, for most people, you're going to have to get more volume of air in. Now the mouth obviously is just a bigger hole. So you can get it more in. So under times of stress, which is what mouth breathing is associated with, we kind of needed to get more oxygen or more in much faster. So it's going to take them in really quick. The problem was we used to go for these really big peaks of stress and then relax. Whereas with today's society, we're constantly sort of sitting here doing stress, never really going down here. And then we're just going up, back to this, up, back to this. So the trend across time means we're always more stressed. but no one actually feels down here. Unless you actually do yoga or breathing or something meditative, most people don't even know what that feeling is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's designed in a way that in survival, you have it when you need it.
Yeah.
All right? But you don't need to use it all the time.
Totally.
Any other questions for you? No? So again, those exercises that we did today will be hand out, sent to Tony, who can flick them onto you guys, for sure. And as it builds up, there'll be videos and more online resources as it keeps coming for you guys to use them as well, okay? But otherwise, we're done.
Heaps thanks, man.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Real good, man. Appreciate that.
No worries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
No worries.